Okay, chapter 22. I just love this camaraderie between Maisie and Haymitch and their commitment to creating posters to defy the Capitol. Them running into game makers kind of surprised me. I'm a little bit shocked that they would have game makers in the arena and why they wouldn't be monitoring that like incredibly closely. Like all of the tributes have trackers, so like when they saw the tributes getting close, why wouldn't they have pulled the game makers back down the chute? And again, what is so important that they would need to be fixing that? But there was some like justice. It felt like that they that they met their doom by the hands of the tributes. Feels like a little just desserts kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like the Capitol's gonna be pissed about that, like pissed. But it also kind of makes you wonder like how often stuff like that happens in the other games that no one ever knows about except the people who are in the games, because they're gonna make sure that stuff like that isn't shown to citizens. So I don't know, it is interesting to think about. Like, it feels like there's just been a lot of really poor moves and decisions made by the Capitol in these games. It's like maybe that happens a lot and no one knows. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But and I can kind of see why Maisie was a little mad that Haymitch didn't like back her up with the ending one of the game makers. But also kind of like that's a like he agreed to be your ally. He didn't agree to like do that to people who are in power over them. But I do get her point of like literally what is there to lose. Again, I don't think they're thinking about their families, but that sucks. And then they made it through the maze with their little blow torches. And I'm a little confused. Haymitch is disappointed when he finds the generator. I'm guessing because he says it's a stone throws away, but it's also might as well be on the moon or something to that effect. I'm like, is it that it's on the other side of this cliff edge? That's why it's like you could theoretically throw a rock and hit it, but it's not actually close enough that they are accessible enough for them to damage it. That's my assumption. Because he was talking about cliff and rocks. I think maybe the generator's on the other side. I don't know if I missed something. So we'll see. I have a feeling he's gonna throw the axe at that thing because it seems like he has pretty good aim. But maybe that's when the whole axe thing happens. But I don't know who he would take out in the process. Yeah, I don't know. Very curious. Also, I love the nod to Lucy Gray's song about anything they can take ain't worth keeping or something like that. They've had a lot of those little like nods to the other books. And again, it does add some cohesion, I think, to these books because it's the same culture, it's the same songs being passed down. So that's kind of neat. And one more thought, I keep forgetting stuff. I really want to know what Maisie knows about Lenore Dove, because she said something about like I guess she got the drop on us or something. I don't remember what she said, but it basically sounded like Lenore Dove is plotting and scheming. So I really want to know what she knows. Okay, for chapter 23, we pick back up with Haymitch, and he ends up figuring out the whole arena boundary, and when the pebble bounces back up. So I still think there was something he used to end someone's life based on what I remember from the Hunger Games, but maybe that was all of it. But I do think it probably will come back into play later. Found the other little girl, the newcomer girl that's left. Oh no, and Maisie, she met her end. It's pretty tragic. With it basically cutting off her voice with how she went, because I feel like her words were so powerful and it felt very symbolic. She was the shrew, she was cutting everyone down with her words, and then they made it so she could not speak in her last moments. And yeah, I think absolutely what Haymitch said about the Capitol punishing the ones who had ended the game makers Swift retribution, of course, they're not going to let that go unnoticed or let that slide under the rug. But it makes sense that that's how she would kind of meet her end. It would have to have been something where, like she was targeted, just like Beebe's son, where even with Haymitch trying to defend her, they didn't like switch their attention onto Haymitch. I feel like that's really the only way to play that super well. Otherwise, it would just be something like what happened with Rue in the Hunger Games, where she kind of took the shot, and then Katniss like retaliated essentially, but and then I think that would feel too similar to what happened with Katniss. So I think it was a good change up. I think that makes sense for how it would essentially bust up their team. And again, even till the end, loved Haymitch and her's relationship. And then I'm glad that he went to find the other newcomer. I don't know if she's just not going to make it because she's already so starving, or if he won't be able to nurse her back to health, or what. I'm curious how that's going to turn out. And I knew that the one little flashlight potato pack thing would have to come back around, so glad we finally got that resolved. And then also the bicycle bell, like it was like they spent too much time pointing that out earlier on in the book, so it makes sense that they had to like call back to that in some way. Otherwise, why even tell us about? I feel like all of the trinkets or whatever tokens that all of the tributes brought into the arena that they like specified, we've kind of seen how that came back around to some extent. And then, I'm curious who sent in the package. Hamish said somebody in the Capitol still has a heart. I don't know. I wonder if it was Plutarch. I don't know if he I guess he's probably like Senna, not allowed to like bet on the games or anything. But I don't know if that means they also can't do sponsorships. But I don't know. That just felt like a Plutarch thing to do. But I could be wrong. Or maybe an Effie. But again, probably not even possible for either of them to. Because they're like so closely tied to the games. But I did think it was a really special gesture for Hamish to drop the not gumdrops, it was chocolate, the little chocolate balls down to the other District 4 girl when she's crying. It was very much of the districts are unified, this is all sucks, like, yeah, we're still gonna try to end each other's lives tomorrow, but right now we're just almost like unified in our grief of we have watched and dealt like horrific things, and yeah, just a very humanizing moment, I think, for them. So very good book still. Hey, chapter 24, we are in the end game now. There were so many questionable decisions made in this one, but I did think of something. It feels like a plot hole that the Maisie and the other girl from, I think the girl from District 4, were like targeted after they, ended some game makers. But like, why wouldn't they target Hamish for like blowing up the water container in the same way, like with Mutt's to his scent? Unless he's right, like maybe it was like the foxes or something, and because of the water it kind of like messed with whatever Mutt they had to target him. But I feel like the Capitol's resourceful. There's no way that they wouldn't have an alternative to kind of cause his demise. The only thing I can figure is, like I mentioned before, like at that point Snow decided, like, I want him to live so I can make his life miserable. It's the only thing that I can figure. Because it doesn't make sense why other tributes would be directly targeted, but he wouldn't, when that is a clear defiance of the Capitol, So there's that. Also, I just think it was not wise to carry the the girl down the tree. I cannot think of her name. Willie, I think. I know she was begging. I know he said he was worried she would like fall trying to like follow him. But I feel like if he actually logicked with her of like, you are safer up here, because he even said something about the District 1 girl, he didn't think she'd be able to like scurry up a tree or whatever. So I feel like that would have been the better option. But you know, teach their own. And yeah, I just think that was poor decision making, but props to her for like trying to use her blow dart and defend herself. The milk, I'm wondering if that was sent just as a way to like distract Hamish and keep him gone longer so that he wouldn't kind of intervene in, you know, Willie's demise. Because again, I do think Hamish is in game for Snow because I think he wants him to like suffer. He wants to know what he's gonna do. He wants Hamish to know what the plans are for his like family and Lenore Dove and everything. So yeah, just I feel like there was actually nothing wrong with the milk. He just wanted to play that mind game to delay Hamish a bit. Maybe Snow will have like a kind of come to Jesus moment with Hamish like he did Katniss and basically tell him if that's true or not. And then, yeah, I feel like so much of this Hamish has just gotten lucky. Like he ended up back when him and the District 1 girl were fighting. He ended up back at the cliffside and just happened to fall right in time, and the, you know, axe whizzed by him, and I'm sure it looked real planned since he knew about the force field. But yeah, it seems like he just got kind of lucky. And I love the like, let me just cause a big boom. There at the end is his like last act of defiance or whatever. He said something about he heard the earth shake. He felt the earth shaking and a big bang or something like that. Almost like he succeeded, but I feel like that must have been some kind of like capital intervention because I mean, he survives, so I don't know how he would have survived a big kaboom right beside him. So I don't know, it's definitely interesting, but I'm curious to know like how they played that off. I really do think it's something like, you know, the capital intervened and that was the like shaking that he felt or whatever, is like a hovercraft landing and somebody snuffing out the wire, the what's it called, the fuse or something. But yeah, what a way to end the games, man. The 50th Hunger Games, second quarter quell. What an end. Okay, chapter 25. Excuse my hair. It is crazier than normal. I've been cleaning all morning, but listening to my book while I clean. So Hamish is, I guess, trying to recover. Well, he's not trying. The capital is recovering him. And once he gets moved back to like his room at the tribute center, like, can you imagine? They are literally just have milk and bread. I feel like that's Snow just taunting him because he knows about Hamish drinking the milk when Snow was poisoned, and then just like the bread. Well, did Snow end up eating bread? I don't know. I just feel like it's a message from Snow to be like, here, enjoy your milk and bread. Like, I don't know. This is like a significant thing between them. But can you imagine? This TV keeps a TV that you cannot control keeps playing graphic scenes of previous games. Like, I imagine that would be like, I don't really do horror movies, and that would be like horror movies just turning on my TV randomly, and I have no control over it. I can't escape it. Like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, what a form of psychological torture. And then, I thought it was interesting that Snow basically let Haymitch see Lucy Gray's like performance in the interview, and I didn't remember her holding out her hand to Snow, but that sounded right when they said it. But I do feel like it was a little bit of a leap that he figured out that it could have been Snow, just from the fact that he like knew a little bit about the Covey. It just felt like a leap. I feel like it could also easily be explained by the fact that he's the president and he probably makes it his business to know a lot of intimate details about each district. But so I thought that was a little bit of a stretch, but I do think that will come up again later and be interesting. I say later, there's only a couple chapters left, maybe 3, 2 or 3. Anyway, and then it was like that, I don't know, it felt like that he either, Snow knew that's what would finally make Haymitch snap, was seeing someone from the Covey that would make him think of Lenore Dove, or he waited to like send in the prep team until Haymitch snapped. But definitely felt like a psychological torture kind of thing, that he was literally just waiting for Haymitch to have a breakdown, which he does, which is understandable. He's just been through this incredible trauma, and now you're basically making him relive these awful moments that may not involve him specifically, but are very close to what he endured. Like, oh my gosh. Again, diabolical. Snow is diabolical. One of, honestly, the truly best villains that I know of. I can only think of like Thanos and Snow are like top tier villains. Yeah, so I don't know why I just brought up Thanos. Just thinking like other villains I think are really good villains. It's like you love to hate them. And also just, well, Snow is just like a creative villain, I feel like. But there's so much conviction in like, he truly believes this is the way, you know, for peace and, you know, progress or whatever. Then I love his interactions with Effie. I really feel like, at least in the movies, again, I don't remember that aspect of the book a ton, but it really felt like Haymitch and Effie in the movies had this, you know, rapport, and it was kind of in my mind, chalked up to, you know, he's been the District 12 mentor for years, Effie's been the escort for District 12 for years, so they've just like had to have kind of a working relationship to some extent for a long time. But I think now it's just kind of deepening that relationship. And she told him like I knew you wouldn't hurt me, because I've known you since you helped me with my like makeup box or whatever. And I think that was so interesting. Like, what is it about that moment, you know? And I do think she was already not seeing the tributes as like pigs or whatever, like how Drusilla talks about them. But that made it seem like she thought he was like different and set apart, and it's like, bro, he was just being helpful. He just helped you pick something up. But I do think it was a really sweet gesture that she wants to like kind of stand with him, and she says something about he needs to be like honored or something. Effie's endearing, as out of touch as she is. But I do think I like that character more because the actress that played her in the movie did a fantastic job. I feel like she did a good job of making her a really endearing character. Especially in Catching Fire, when she's just like, we're all a team, aren't we? So yeah. And then, Mags and Wirus coming in and having obviously been tortured. Oh, that's heartbreaking. It really makes me wonder how they even kept up with like the mentor stuff and sending Haymitch gifts during the games, because you would think that would have started right away at like the first sign of any kind of like sabotage. But again, like part of me thinks that at a certain point Snow kind of shifted his plan and was like, oh no, Haymitch is gonna win because that's gonna be a better punishment for him is if he has to live in a world where everyone he cares about has either been tortured or be ended, you know. So letting them kind of continue their mentorship until the games were actually over, and then starting the terrors upon them. I'm wondering, said Max came in a wheelchair, but she wasn't in a wheelchair in Catching Fire, I don't think. So I'm wondering if she will recover from that. But I don't know, I think I mentioned it in one of my earlier videos. She couldn't speak in Catching Fire. So I was wondering kind of when that shift happened. I'm wondering if they like made her an AVOX or something, or like cut out her tongue like they would an AVOX during her torture, because Hamish still hasn't interacted with her, so like he doesn't know if she can like speak to him yet. But that's my hunch, that they have cut out her tongue. And I guess still let her live in Victor's village, because I think they mentioned that she helped raise Finnick after his games and everything, but so I don't think she's like true AVOX, but I'm wondering if that was like a form of her torture. And then, especially because she was so nurturing, not only with her words, but with her actions, so I could see that being like a way to really hit her hard, kind of taking away some of that ability to be comforting and to be nurturing for tributes. And then Wire is talking about her being super twitchy. That explains how we like see her, and like twitchy and mumbling. So that explains how we see her in Catching Fire. Again, I think they probably, it's like all this stuff that was a result of this Hunger Games. It's just kind of heartbreaking. And again, you like know this is coming. Like they had to end up that way somehow. When we see them in Catching Fire, but it's just like there are consequences for rebellion, or rebellious acts, which is why people don't act. I think that's kind of the point of this book, of like, well, maybe not the point, but Plutarch questioned that, and Hamish like heard that question again in his own mind, like, why don't people rise up? There's more district folks than there are like capital folks, so why do you just keep submitting? It's like, well, unless you have like a radical rebellion where everyone stands up, like what you get in Mockingjay, then yeah, like it's just you and the people you care about that suffer. I don't know, that when you kind of rebel. So definitely interesting, but like an interesting idea, and yeah, just heartbreaking, because I especially after this one, I felt really attached to Mags, especially, but also Wyrus. They were super endearing. Really curious what happens with Beatty, because I'm sure they knew that he had something to do with it, and that there was repercussions for that outside of just his son's untimely demise. Because that was a punishment for something different. So I know that's not gonna go unanswered. What else? And then it's interesting the whole how the Capitol reorganizes like the broadcast of the games when they're doing the recap. I feel like there has to be a pretty significant delay when they're actually airing the games like in real time, especially since there was clearly that with the reaping, but to account for things like this. And it really makes me wonder like how often there are more like overtly rebellious acts or digs at the Capitol that just don't get shown, because it's, probably not trying to greatly damage the arena, but people's own like poster moments that just gets cut out because the Capitol can edit the footage at any point, so it really makes me think that's probably happened more than just this time. And then I wondered too, like, what was actually broadcast from Katniss's Hunger Games. And you know, why they let stuff like Her Song for Rue air. And yeah, I'm curious why they made some of the decisions they made in the regular Hunger Games, if it's clear that they will greatly edit the footage in this one. But I'm sure the method behind some, I mean, obviously they're gonna edit out clear rebellious acts, but I'm sure part of it, they've edited him to look more like self-absorbed and whatnot, not to turn the capital against him, but to turn the districts against him, because the capital's not really gonna care if you abandoned your allies or whatever, but districts are gonna care. But I'm sure the people closest to Haymitch will understand that it was edited and it's propaganda and that that's not really him. But that's probably not going to matter very much longer. But it also, I was thinking about, this is a little unrelated, but if he was so close to Katniss's dad, why didn't Haymitch help them out later on with some of his funds from his, like, victor's stipend or whatever? Stipend's probably not the right word, but why didn't he, like, help them since they were still around? But so I'm curious to see if something more happens with that, if he and Katniss's dad kind of grew out of friendship by whatever happens when he returns to District 12. But we'll see. I feel like that's gonna be heartbreaking to see the end of, like, his loved ones, because you know, like, Snow's gonna make him suffer. So I feel like this is gonna be bleak. Yeah, we'll see what I'm excited to know what happens, though, but I think it's gonna be tough hearing it. Yeah, I think those are my overall thoughts. Especially with Snow's ominous, like, enjoy your homecoming, because it's kind of like, enjoy it, it's not gonna last, or enjoy it because I've stirred up the district so that they're, like, pissed. I'm not sure which, but maybe a little bit of both. But we'll see. In the home stretch. Well, chapter 26. It was inevitable. We knew the horror was coming of the things that happened to his loved ones, but it's still just, like, tough to hear. First, the riding home on the train with the bodies of his friends, awful. But I mean, I guess it is better than, you know, him having to be in the same, like, cart or area with the coffins. That's kind of where I thought that was going when he said, like, he saw the coffins being, like, rolled towards the train. And then the fire when he got home. That's just, it's just rough. And, like, can you imagine if you were his friend in that scenario where, like, he is trying to run into the fire and you have been there already, like, you kind of know that it's too far gone, like, you're not going to be able to save them, and so you're just, like, holding him back, and he is just, like, in this despair and not thinking rationally, and you're just there trying to, like, protect him, and it's I mean, it's just hard to, like, see people you care about go through something like that. So it's like, gosh, Haymitch was so traumatized from all of this, but also, like, think about the community. Like, they're neighbors. People, they're, at the funerals, he said there were, like, over 100 people there, for, I think it was 6 people, the 3 tributes, Ma and Sid, and then Mr. Callow. Yeah, so 6 people, and, like, over 100 people that show out, and, you know, it's just like you have a whole community kind of shook to their core with so many of their loved ones kind of gone on, and I don't know. And those were just the ones brave enough to say they were sick, and that's why they didn't show up to the mines. You know, it's not even like who knows how many people actually wanted to be there but didn't feel like they could. So, and I mean, how traumatic. You know that people are putting two and two together, that like his family and his loved ones are being targeted. Like, they're not stupid, they know how the Capitol works. Like, I mean, they haven't had a victor in that district for like 40 years, but still, like, they know how the Capitol works. And so, like, can you just imagine the level of trauma too, and fear? Like, if you're his friend, if you're Hamich's friend, like, I could see myself being scared. Like, his loved ones are clearly being targeted. It's just wild. But they were still, like, Burdick and Blair just, like, sticking by him and trying to, like, protect him as best as possible. Oh, man. I think we really, last 2 chapters really, but we start seeing how Haymitch came to self-medicate. You know, using I'm guessing it's morphine that they provided in the Capitol for his pain management. But he even talked about in the previous chapter about how the more disruptive I am, the more they give me to knock me out. And so I'm going to be as disruptive as I can, or something to that effect. So it's like he's trying to get more drugs. Which, I mean, fair. That's not a judgment. Like, I can't even imagine how you go on after enduring what he had, even up to that point. It's not even like what happened after the fact. And then with Astrid giving him like the cough medicine a couple of times in this chapter too. And I'm sure that just progresses from there because, yeah, when you've just endured so much heartache and in such a short amount of time, like you don't have any time to kind of like recover or bounce back. Like it's just one awful nightmare after another. I do love that he kind of knew exactly where Lenore Dove was going to go if she was released. And she was. But I don't really get, like, what did Lenore Dove, where did she think those gumdrops came from? Or candy, I think it was gumdrops. Yeah. You're just gonna eat random gumdrops on the ground? Like, at least Haymitch, it makes sense. He thought it was the ones that he had given her. But she clearly knew that they weren't. She didn't know Haymitch was there yet, so it wasn't like she thought he was delivering them to her. So I thought that was kind of weird. It's like, you're just gonna find random gumdrops and start eating them? That's probably not very wise. But I guess maybe beggars can't be choosers in the scene, so if you find something delectable, maybe you do just start eating it. But then she said, thanks for the gumdrops. I don't know if that was a reference to the first ones. I assumed it was them, so I don't know. It's like she thinks that Hamish brought them before her, but I don't know. That seemed weird to me. I don't fully understand. If you have thoughts, let me know. And then, yeah, the horror of that realization for Hamish of like, she has already eaten a full gumdrop. The damage has been done. And then he's like, oh no, like, this is bad. This is bad, bad, bad. And how it reacts so quickly. And again, in true Snow fashion, like, you know it's gotta be poison. I'm kind of surprised Claire Carmine couldn't hear the screams. Like, it sounds like their house is pretty close. And I imagine Hamish is, like, screaming. So that was odd to me, but I also don't know how, like, it sounds like this all happened really quickly, so even if they did hear, maybe they, like, just hadn't made it to them to help yet. But yeah, just heartbreaking. At least they did get to see each other one last time, I guess. But yeah, just tragic. tragic, and that it was poison, and that they realized like a second too late. But then the other part of me is like, it probably wouldn't have really mattered. Like, they're not going to be able to run off. They would have been found by the Capitol anyway. And if Snow, even if they didn't eat those, if she didn't eat those gumdrops, he would have found a way to poison something else, like, or the whole Covey house will catch on fire. Like, I mean, again, I'm sure Snow was pleasantly surprised, or maybe not surprised, but quite happy that his gumdrops worked because of the, like, poetic justice of the poisoning or whatever, but yeah, I just don't, I think even if she hadn't eaten them, it was going to just be delaying the inevitable, unfortunately. But yeah, just heartbreaking to see where that, like, for that chapter to leave off. And Haymitch kept saying, like, it's my fault. And it's like, ugh. Like, as someone who carries a lot of, like, guilt, and that's something I'm working on in my adult life, is, like, not feeling guilt and shame for everything. I feel for him, like, again, I'm sure in that scenario I would feel so guilty, but it's also, like, I mean, again, it's the result of his actions that Snow's doing all of this, but it's also, like, you didn't cause an end to their life. Snow and the Capitol did, So, just, but I could see why someone would want to self-medicate after something like that. It's like, not only did you lose so many friends or people you cared about in the arena, but then you come home and the people that are most dear to you are also now gone, and they were targeted because of you. And like I said before, I'm sure towards the end of the game, Snow kind of changed his mind and was like, oh yeah, we'll just let him win. Because that would be worse, than him not making it out of the arena in some ways. I mean, you still have your life, but they're going to torture him in so many other ways too. So, it's just rough. It's just rough. I still love the saying, like, I love you like all fire. And then her making him promise, don't let the sun rise on the reaping. Yeah. I mean, I get that they used the title of the book. But I also, I don't know, I feel like that's not a very fair thing to ask him to promise. But I mean, it's basically your deathbed, so I guess you can ask for whatever you want. But I mean, I think that's just saying, like, don't, let the reaping keep happening. But it's also like, what do you want Hamish to do? Which, I mean, maybe it is what he does and, like, helps with this rebel plot, but I think she said on another reaping, so that makes it sound like don't let this happen again next year, and it's just like, what you want to do? But and I do think all of this makes it even more, like, salient of an encounter when Haymitch is talking to Katniss is it at the end of the first Hunger Games, where he's like, you never get off of this train. Like, don't you realize you defied the Capitol? Like, you and Peeta will always have to be in love. There's going to be, like, a marriage and, like, kids, and they're going to keep pulling you out every year as mentors and going through this whole song and dance and checking in on your love story. He's like, don't you get it? Like, you need to play up the I am in love and I wasn't trying to be rebellious, because he knows firsthand what's waiting for her because she defied Capitol. She made fools of him, so I think he really doesn't want her to have the same, like, fate that he did, where, like, all of his loved ones are gone in the end. So yeah, just heartbreaking. Such a good book, though. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, as I don't know why I'm enjoying it so much, as, like, heartbreaking as it is and, like, tragic as it is, but I think it's just a really good story and really articulates and explains like why Haymitch is the way he is in the first Hunger Games books and later too. I think it gives a really clear, it makes his motivations really clear. And I like Haymitch as a character, so I'm glad that we're getting that for him. Man, chapter 27. One, the voice actor is doing a really good job. Like when he's reading the words of the Raven, he sounds crazed, and that like props to the voice actor. So good. I think they did a really good, Suzanne Collins did a really good job just describing how Haymitch is kind of slipping into oblivion of just self-medicating, trying to forget. Again, sounds crazed when he's like looking for where Lenore Dove is buried. So sad with him basically, and I think I asked that question in the last video or the last snippet of what about his friends, like literally anyone he cares about are at risk of, Snow's wrath and punishment. As like, I guess Haymitch also realized that and was trying to push everyone away. And it's so sad that, he like hurt Astrid in the process and, really created a rift between him and Burdick. But it feels like there's some redemption for the relationship with Haymitch really like trying to protect his daughter, even though Burdick isn't there to like see that. And I thought it was sweet. He said he's not without pity. Burdick will never forgive me, but he's not without pity. And Burdick showed him where she was buried. I think that was just really beautiful I'm sure just seeing that humanity in someone of like, he really needs this. And like, he is losing his grip on reality. And, this is one small gift I can give. Let's see if I can remember where I was. I had a child interruption mid recording. So really glad that he got to see where she was buried. And then I guess we also have the answer to what happened to Lucy Gray. I guess Snow did end her life at the ambiguous ending of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I guess, I don't know, I guess they kind of passed that down through the covey of like Snow and the, I guess, poisoning. I don't know, maybe, I guess that's why the Flint Striker had the snake and the mockingbird. Mockingjay, sorry. And that's why Snow like stared at it so pointedly. Well, probably because the mockingjays are like that symbol of rebellion, but and maybe he saw himself in the snake with poison. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting choice because I don't remember in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes him and Lucy Gray having a conversation about him being like a snake or anything. So it's interesting that's what Lucy Gray like picked up on or picked out for Haymitch. Also, but I just don't know. I guess maybe she survived long enough to like run away and the members of the covey found her later, maybe? I don't know, or did she just disappear and they have kind of a grave without a body? I don't know. I feel like it's more likely that they found her body and buried it there. So I guess all the theories about her making it to District 13 and being an ancestor of Coin or something, probably not super accurate. I'm also still really curious who Lenore Dove and who Burdick's mom was, because they keep mentioning Tam Amber and Clark. the other uncle. But they never mention any like women in the cubby, and you know, there's the grave for Lucy Gray, and then there's also the grave for Maud, the other one that they mention in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I'm guessing that was one of their moms, but Burdick referred to Lenore Dove as his cousin, so it's not Maud somebody who couldn't have been both of their mom, or they would have been siblings. So I don't know. I'm curious who's mom, but anyway, that was so heartbreaking. Tim Amber being like, not again, like, oh man, heartbreaking. And it makes me wonder what happened to the Maud lady, if it was some kind of poison, if Snow like remembered the cubby and just wanted to like inflict more pain on Lucy Gray's family. I don't know. I would be curious to hear what happened to her, or if it was just natural causes. But yeah, so got some answers there. I forgot to put in the last video too. I was like, man, are we ever gonna figure out what the whole orange under the fingernails thing was that Maisie Lee referenced for Lenore Dove? And thankfully, Hamish finally found like the paint, and that mystery was solved. I was like, man, this is another ambiguous thing. It's gonna drive me nuts not knowing. So glad we have an answer to that. But it was interesting, he worded it as like it was in an alley that's like forgotten by the peacekeepers. I'm like, are they, I don't know, is District 12 really that big that you can have like unmonitored areas? I thought that was interesting. Or maybe he just meant like it's not out front and center in the open, where maybe it would be obvious that someone is trying to spark rebellious activity. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And again, how did Maisie Lee find it? How did she even know about like the spray painted words if it's like in these deserted areas? And Maisie Lee was a townie, so it's not like she was just like hanging out in the seam, which I guess he didn't specify that was an alley in the seam. Anyway, oh, and I forgot to ponder about the guy when they were burying everyone, somebody spitting on, I think they said Case, spitting on Wyatt's dad's grave, and I was pretty confused. I don't know if it was just the principle of like he was a Booker boy or whatever, or if we were supposed to know who Case was specifically that like spit on his grave and like the reasoning behind that. So that was interesting. Yeah, if you have any insight, let me know, because I'm quite curious about that. And then I love that it's Effie again that's just like coming to get Hamish, and it's really like Effie and Hamish are kind of like on the same train for until the events of Catching Fire, like the rebel plot or whatever. They've really been in it together since like day one almost. So I'm glad. I don't know, I feel like her frustration with him makes a lot of sense in the Hunger Games, where she's just like, you know, you need to like focus, liven up, because she gets this every year, this like intoxicated Hamish that, you know, can't really be super relied upon. I'm sure she feels like she's kind of carrying the weight of it all on her own. But her being like, I'm so sorry about like your family and your girl, and it's like a horrible accident. It's like, man, she's really drinking the Capital Kool-Aid. I think she really believes this was all like an accident or an unfortunate turn of events. It's like, I don't know, that's just wild that people would actually believe that this all wasn't targeted, you know? Like, can you imagine the odds of that? And I mean, there are people who have tragic things happen, like one thing right after another, but that just seems a little far-fetched. you get reaped in the Hunger Games, you win the Hunger Games, and then your family and your girlfriend just gone in a matter of like days once you get back. It's not even like while you were gone, like once you get back. So I don't know. But I think that's just goes to show like how much the Capitolites are drinking their own Kool-Aid, man. What else? I thought it was another cool callback that like Plutarch takes Haymitch to the attic of the Justice Building in District 11. One, how did Plutarch know that that area wasn't monitored in the Justice Building, or bugged, or whatever? But two, that I'm pretty sure, I know it's in the movie, I can't remember if it was in the book, but that's where Haymitch like drags Katniss after, her and Peeta go off script. They don't read all of the cue cards, and then kind of incite some, we'll say, peacekeeper action in the outside of the Justice Building in District 11, and then Haymitch drags them up there and is like, what are you doing? Like, this is bad. I don't think you realize how bad this is. I thought it was interesting, like, Plutarch being like, we need someone like you. And Haymitch and Katniss are actually, like, quite a bit alike in a lot of ways. And also the fact that, I don't know, I feel like it was almost like a nod to, we need someone like you, someone that's coming and you're helping pave the way. You could help pave the way for them, or prepare. And then I liked the whole, they'll need an army, we need to find one, we need to make one or something, and then somehow they get in contact with District 13. I wonder if that was just like Plutarch's doing, if he was the one that got in contact with 13. But yeah, and Haymitch just wanting nothing to do with it, because he's like, I'm not your man, like, I've suffered enough, and I just want to, like, drink myself into oblivion. But it makes me think that he, like, kind of recounted on that with, when Katniss came on the scene, he like, saw potential, and that's why he was, like, active in the rebel plot. Then it was almost like she inspired hope in him, and maybe he saw his covey girl in her. So I don't know, I just think there's a lot of, like, nods to Katniss, and it makes a lot of sense why he did respond as well as he could to Katniss. Her being kind of harsh with him, being like, we need your help, and then also him, like, feeling this attachment to her because he was friends with her parents, and he had that connection to the covey and her singing and everything. So it also just makes sense why he would want to help her. And yeah, and it is, again, it's just tragic that it's his birthday every year on Reaping Day, and it's a constant reminder of there's another reaping where he hasn't honored his promise to Lenore Duff. So, Haymitch, such a tragic character. I'm gonna go listen to the epilogue and see if there's anything else what else is there to close out the gap between the 50th Hunger Games and the ramifications after to the 74th. They got me with the epilogue. Oh my goodness. I love how the epilogue is, I guess all of this, Haymitch is telling the story after the events of Mockingjay, is what it sounds like from the epilogue. He was filling out the memorial book and then just told them the story, and, like, how sweet. What a good way to tie it back in so that it made sense for him to, like, talk about his relationship and interactions with Katniss and Peeta. Yeah, like, brilliant. Yeah, and him talking about how Lenore Dove like grew old like alongside him. I love that. It sounds like his dreams of her are more like peaceful now, and he like helped fulfill his promise to her, like through Katniss too. Just beautiful writing, and a beautiful story. I love him pointing out like when he first like saw Katniss, that it was when she was a baby with Burdick. And I love that he pointed out that like he did acknowledge the whole calling Katniss sweetheart, and it was because she reminded him so much of like Luella, and then she volunteered. Just all of it. The name just slipped out. That was precious. And then mentioning the Mockingjay pen being Maisley's and made by Tam Amber, or the Clark guy, the other uncle. I don't remember which one made them. But I still wish we knew how. I really feel like it was given to Katniss by her friend, not actually found in the Hob, like in the movie. Anyway, I'm gonna go on to the Hunger Games. Hopefully that question will be answered. I feel like I'm guessing that was passed down through her family. Cause yeah, I was like, but how? It was Maisley's, but how did it end up in the Hob? But I don't think that's book canon. Anyway, we'll see. That should be coming soon. Let's see. And that he can't go to be with Lenore Dove because he has to look out for his family. Like, he called Katniss and Peeta his family. That's really precious. I wish we knew in the timeline if that was before or after Katniss and Peeta had kids. If he, gets to meet their children, because that would also be really precious. And that Katniss is such a deep well, how people say, deep, well, now I can't think of the saying. Oh well. Still waters run deep. And I feel like that's Katniss. Like, she has such a deep well, but she's just doesn't know how to deal with her emotions, I think, or doesn't know how to put voice to emotions. But she, shows how much she cares with her actions. Like, he told her the story of Lenore Dove, and then she brought him geese. And then he raised the geese and takes them out to Lenore Dove's meadow, and that's just precious. Absolutely precious. I think that's pretty much everything. Just all in all, beautiful story. And again, I don't remember the first 3 books as well, so we'll see, but I think this may be my favorite of the Hunger Games world. Because I think there were a lot of really good nods to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and to the Hunger Games trilogy. And again, I think it just makes a lot of sense for Hamish's character. Man, just 10 out of 10. Highly recommend this book. Yeah, so good. Now, I guess we'll see if I can figure out how to splice all these videos together and make a YouTube account. We'll see. Maybe see you guys soon.